Hello, once again, this is Brother Gerald, and I'm here for another episode of the Online Philosopher. And today I'm going to talk about black women. And this is going to be a message that's going to be just not only for black women, but it's going to also be for black men as well, and for anybody that wants to listen to hear God. But being recognized as a black man, being recognized as a black man, I just can't help but to kind of focus this thing on my particular experience. I know that what I'm about to talk about will be totally applicable to every ethnic group here in this world, because the one thing about my view is that the things that I'm going to talk about have a universal application, and that's the one thing that a lot of people don't want human beings as a unified whole to understand, that we are one blood, and what is applicable to one ethnic group is applicable to all. So we're going to basically talk about a video that a guy named New Possibilities presented, and he was really highlighting just how great and how wonderful the black woman is. And she is a wonderful, beautiful creature. She's been endowed with so many gifts, so many talents, as all women on this earth are. But I'm just going to go ahead and say that, Brother New Possibilities, you kind of went a little over the top. That's kind of a modern day slang term that really says that you were very extreme in your praising of the black woman, to the exclusion of really trying to get her to see herself in a more honest view. And I would just say that there's nothing wrong with giving a woman praise. There's nothing wrong with telling her how wonderful she is, but it's a far cry from just focusing in on the good things to where she becomes so prideful, so proud, that she's not willing to take a look at the things that have entered her life to kind of tarnish that good name. And to me, that's what's happening with the black community. Black women, on the one hand, want to be praised for being not only the mothers in the community, but we see Hallmark and some of these other internet card providers giving women, black women in particular, acknowledgement for being not just the mother of the household, but the father, because the father's not around to do the things that he's supposed to do. But to me, that's a very proud and arrogant position to have. And if you're going to take the position and actually receive these acknowledgments that you are not only the mother of the household, but you're the father too, because the father's unwilling to be there at the home, then you have to also take the responsibility of what happens under your leadership. So if you want to be a leader, then the buck stops with you. You're going to have to be accountable for not just being the leader, wearing the hat of leadership. You have to be responsible for what follows under your leadership. I used to watch, and I still do, I watch the TV show Star Trek. That's one of my favorite shows. And not because it promotes biblical values, but I just like the show because Captain Kirk, James T. Kirk, William Shatner played the character of Captain Kirk, and Captain Kirk was the captain. He was the leader aboard the Starship Enterprise, and the Starship Enterprise went all throughout the known galaxies and warp drive. You can go all over the galaxy, but we couldn't go intergalactic. The Enterprise just hadn't developed that technology just yet. But most of the episodes William Shatner really, or the character really took pride in being the leader. In fact, he had such a passion for his leadership that it really went to his soul, that if he made a decision that impacted his crew in a negative way, like a crew member died, or he was at the crossroads where he's dealing with this alien and the alien's about to kill one of his crew members. He's like, no, you can't do this. You must kill me. It was me. I'm the leader. Let them go. Take me. And they just went on and killed the crew member. And I always found it funny most of the time, even as a little kid, after about maybe 6 or 7 episodes, I would see these new characters come in, and I was kind of, it's like, oh man, this is new. I don't think he's going to stay. He's a member of the crew, but I don't think he's going to stay around to the end of the show. And there was this one episode where they went to this planet, and there was this one black guy who was, he was there, and they're all kind of investigating and looking around the planet, and they run into this alien who's got the ability to turn these humans into these little white, almost like like a geometric shape, and the geometric shape was about the size of a grapefruit, but it was in this geometric, multi-faceted kind of like diamond kind of shape. And the alien transformed this looked like a Latino woman and this brother into these shapes. And I was just surprised to find out after the alien had crushed, he's saying, this one of your crew members is dead, and then materialized again. And the brother came back. I was like, wow, man, this is kind of a unique situation. The brother came back. I just knew that the little square that got destroyed was the brother, because most of the time in Hollywood and theatrical productions on television, the brother, he's out of the game early. But I thought that was kind of funny. But William Shatner, he really took a passion, and you could see after the thing, they made it real dramatic. Jim, get over it. We gotta, you've only lost one. You gotta match, get your wits about you so you can, get away from this alien and defeat him. And ultimately they do. They manage to get the alien to realize that, hey, we can get along. You don't have to, just come in here and dominate and control this thing. Why can't we cooperate and get along together? So this is the point that I'm making, that, if a black woman wants to be the leader and things go to hell and it's not turning out the way they want it to turn out, then they need to accept responsibility, and they need to cry out in humility. Black man, come back, please. We were wrong to go this direction. We accepted the feminist view that, I'm a strong black woman, and, I'm a survivor. We got videos of, Beyonce and, all these different people. I'm a survivor. I don't need no man, and, and all this stuff. And we're going to celebrate our independence. And, okay, if you're going to celebrate it, great, celebrate it. But the funny thing is, I find your celebration is a little unfounded, because you're doing so many things that, to me, don't make sense and are unworthy of praise. In fact, they need to be exposed and ridiculed and condemned. They need to be repudiated. For example, black women are killing their children at a rate of about 1,700 per day. 5 days a week, 1,700 black babies are killed. And some gentleman quoted a statistic: every 10 years, something like 35 million black children are aborted. To me, the woman who volunteers, even under the pressure of the man telling her to go, she has the right to choose. And if she is willing to go to the clinic and have this child, because the feminist movement says that she has a right and she's in control of her body. So black woman, well, the man told me to go to the clinic because he didn't want to be responsible. Well, you have the legal responsibility, and ultimately that is going to ultimately rest on your shoulders. When they say ultimately, that means ultimately, meaning I can't intervene. I can give you some input, but if you choose to go, even with my, quote, blessing to have this abortion, it's ultimately you who decided, and therefore you are going to be the one to answer for that result that comes forward. There was this one black woman that I knew, gorgeous woman, beautiful. Any man would love to have had her as their wife. She was that phenomenally beautiful. But upon closer inspection, you find that she was very carefree with her body. And many men had sexual relations with her, and she kept getting pregnant. And I'd say between her 17th year and her 28th year, she had maybe had about 7 or 8 abortions. Now, she finally reached a point where she wanted to get married and have children. She was ready to have children, but now she can't have them. Now, why is that? Because for every action, there's a reaction, and physical laws do apply. And even though our minds may imagine that we can do whatever we want and there won't be any consequences, the consequence was that her womb had been so damaged from all of these abortions that when she was ready to have a child, the doctor said you can't. So here's another example of the damage of living contrary to God's law. And the loss that she suffered was the loss of motherhood, even though she had demonstrated that she could be a mother. Now, when she was ready to be a mother, she couldn't. So these are the things that I want to kind of wake black women up to see, and definitely the things that New Possibilities mentioned in the video are worthy of praise. She, was beautiful beyond measure. I see even in my own wife, she's a very beautiful woman. But what I see too is a certain amount of arrogance and pride that needs to be tempered. I mean, in fact, it really needs to be eradicated, to be honest with you. It needs to be eradicated, it needs to go away. And so that beauty that she's been endowed with, she had nothing to do with generating that. That was something that just kind of came out, and it was the result of God giving her a certain stature or status. So, I applaud the beauty of the black woman, but that really wasn't something she had to work for. That was not something she had to really put in to get. She just got it by virtue of just coming out of the womb and being a part of that genetic stock. So I applaud New Possibilities for that. He applauded the historical struggle that the black woman endured alongside, the black man had a lot of things he had to get screwed over. He got screwed around, and he continues to get screwed around, but I'd say that maybe right now his getting screwed around is more self-imposed than, the oppressive white man is doing this to us. And that's not to say or not to acknowledge that there are institutions and structures that are set up to promote and preserve the leadership role of white people in this society. And to me, I really don't have a problem with that, in as much as that I'm trying to build my business to be available for my children and subsequent generations of my family to enjoy and to rely on. And when they put me in the ground as a dead man, I want my family members to mourn my loss, but I want them to also, for every day after my funeral, to cry or at least acknowledge and have tears of joy that, this man not only died, but he left us with a legacy that is going to produce physical manifestations of help, physical manifestations of profit and benefit and gain. And I think giving them the Bible is a start, but I don't want to just be on a spiritual level. I want to be on a physical level because here it is, I'm a physical man, so I want them to have that too. So just being a black woman, I just would say that, you know, for the things that you have endured alongside the black man, you know, those, I definitely give you praise and claim for that. But what have you done for us lately? And I would just say for the black man, I think I beat up the black woman enough. For the black man, you have an issue too. And when I say you, I'm referring to me, because even though I may acknowledge and recognize these things, I don't think that I can take so much of praise and applaud until my fellow brethren see and understand it the way I do. I want my fellow brethren to see that, you know, you were displaced out of the household by certain things being set up in society. But the funny thing about that is that you were still in a position to choose to fall for the manipulation and the push and the influence, or you could basically say, no, I'm going to keep my eye on the prize. The goal is I want my children to enjoy being raised in a household that has a father and a mother. And regardless of how society is going, you know, when you watch movies, there's these messages coming out. During the 60s, we had black exploitation movies, you know, we had TV shows. I remember this one called Get Christy Love. And Christy Love, she's a private investigator and like a cop kind of thing, and she's running around independent. And I mean, she was flamboyant in her dress, flamboyant in her cars, and everybody's trying to get Christy Love. That was the name of the show, I think it was. But it was promoting this kind of liberated independence where the black woman is kind of on her own doing it. And we bought into this view, and black women grabbed a hold of it so strong that ultimately the black man was displaced. But how did the black man get displaced? Was the black woman so strong that she had the ability to push this so-called strong black man out of the game? I think the black man was a willing participant in leaving, because during the 60s, black men were given this view that, you know, white women now are available to you, and free love, not war. And we see, you know, so many people at the university experimenting with drugs and doing all the things, and then drinking alcohol. So I know some guys that were like, right now they're about between 65 and 70 years old. I'm 50. And I was just a little baby during the 60s, so I couldn't jump on that bandwagon so strong, but I jumped on a wagon during the 80s and 90s, and I paid a terrible price for it. But, you know, God saw fit to set me free, and for that He's given me a promise to restore and give me the joy that I should have enjoyed. And, you know, it doesn't hurt for me to look back, because, you know, there's a lot of feast days that God has appointed in the Old Testament for us to look back upon, so that we can remember how great and how good He was to take us out of these desperate situations. So the black man needs to see and recognize that you have a choice too. Nobody's cracking a whip and beating you and forcing your behavior to move in a certain direction. You have the freedom to be a victim, or you have the freedom to stand up and be a man. And to stand up and be a man means that when you make decisions that you choose to do, that you take the consequences. You know that selling drugs in the community is not the way to go, but this is the only way that I can make a living. This is the only way the white man has given me. Well, if that's the only white man is giving you, maybe you should not have your hand stuck out to receive anything from this white man. Maybe you need to have a little pride about yourself and start learning and reading, because to me, we don't have any excuse. Most of these drug addicts and dope dealers, you guys got cell phones that have capabilities that can teach you. We have people on YouTube that actually teach you trades and skills, and they show off their knowledge. And to me, showing off that knowledge is, you know, is edifying to those who are willing to take the time and stop watching these senseless, idiotic videos. You know, I mean, I watch some of these videos from time to time, but I would say that I spend more of my time watching videos that edify and get me to think. And so too, that I will conclude this video with that the whole purpose of my getting on YouTube is to hopefully get my listeners to think clearly, and be blessed.